Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we're going to have a lot of fun today, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to start in paradise. I can't go a week without getting a report from Nosara, Costa Rica, my favorite billfish destination. I know they've been on some hot sailfish there. I'm hoping those fish are still biting. We'll check in there. And then we're going to head to Northeast Florida and check in with Captain David Voorhees and start working our way down the coast. We'll stop at every important port on our way out through the Panhandle to check in and find out what's going on with the fishing. Hey, everything's changing every week, particularly in the spring, so let's get it rolling with a trip over to Nosara, Costa Rica to check in with none other than Craig Sutton. Craig, how we doing?
I'm good, Captain Ricky. Real good, sir.
Good deal. Tell me what's going on at Nosara. I know your boats have been fishing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been typical March. We're going to run somewhere in the high 90s number of trips, which is pretty good for us. That's almost normal for us, but it's been good.
Excellent.
That big, silly, ridiculously hot bite we had a couple weeks ago, it's slowed up, but it's still pretty good. It's a little more, not quite as many huge numbers of sailfish, but we're getting a lot of sailfish. And marlin, we had a 4 marlin week. 2 on the Explorer, and a lot of yellowfin mixed in, and none of those giant mahi that we were catching last week. There's still quite a few good ones, but none of those 40 plus. But I think that's just a hiccup week. I think they'll be back this week.
Now you guys have also got cuberas and roosters this time of year too, right?
Yeah. We're consistently catching the big roosters this year. Above all else has been. It's like almost all the roosters we're catching are well over 40. The one that caught that big 76-inch yellowfin,
right?
That rooster he had caught earlier that morning was 50 pounds.
I don't want to mess with either one of those fish. Craigie, I appreciate it, brother, and we'll talk with you next week if that's okay.
Absolutely. Look forward to it, Ricky.
Thank you, Craig. Craig Sutton from Nosara Paradise Rentals, and that means it's time to head to Florida. And who do we run into right here in Northeast Florida but our old friend Captain David Voorhees? David, how are you?
Hey, Captain Ricky, I'm doing fine. But that is true, boy. These fish don't always bite, and they don't bite forever.
Yeah, that's one thing about it. When there's no fish biting, it's going to get better. And when there's a lot of fish biting, it's going to get worse.
Yep. I tell you, this week it has been just a mixed bag of fish. I'm at that point now, it's like there's no really trying to figure out any game plan for this time of year. One day they're going to bite on that upper end of the tide, early morning, whatever. The next day they're going to bite on the dead bottom of the tide late in the evening. So, it's just typical springtime fishing. We always say, here today, gone tomorrow for the springtime fishing. But the other thing is, it's just, you got to be really flexible. And if we're not finding them in the shallow, go deep, mix it up. I'll bring many different types of bait with me this time of year. If I catch a crab or two, I'm going to keep them on board in case I need to go to crab. But I will have shrimp, minnows. Getting about that time, Ricky, for topwater bait, some topwater action. I'm starting to see a few mullet run. Today, we caught our first jack crevalle of the year. And we also, this week I saw some Spanish mackerel this week. Some of the fish that you normally don't see till summertime, well, all of a sudden they're starting to show up.
Well, David, I'm glad to hear that on the inshore scene, because I got to tell you, for the offshore scene, David, it's the worst I've ever seen it, and I don't really know what's going on. We have had a blob of green water on the edge of the Gulf Stream for the last month that wouldn't go away. Well, it finally went away. The water is now beautifully blue just off the ledge. It's the right temperature. It's got weeds. It's got flying fish. It's got everything except pelagics, and I don't really know what's going on. But this is the time of year. We had a question come in this week about looking forward to the summer season and all, and what do you look for when? Well, normally right now we look for a mix of wahoo, tuna, and mahi, but they really haven't shown up. Now, the big wahoo have been doing well for the high-speed guys, but some boats catch them and some boats don't. It's just who happens to drive over the right fish. But now it's almost time to give up that high speed and get more into bait fishing because the dolphin and tuna show up in numbers. That hasn't happened yet, but that's due to happen any time. Those fish will usually hold through May, and then in June, everybody switches over and starts getting ready for kingfish tournaments and fishing along the beach for tarpon. Our flounder fishing starts getting better then on the offshore side of the rocks. So as we get into summer, things come on back inshore closer to home. Our party ground fishing has been excellent, and I really hope it happens. I think we're just off to a slow start. But David, thank you so much for such a great report. We appreciate it. And please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely, Ricky, and I'm hoping to have some real good reports.
Thank you, David.
All right, Captain Ricky. Tight lines, buddy.
You got it. All right, thanks to Captain David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. Now, let's move on down to East Central. That's where Captain Jim Ross is waiting with the latest news. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Rick, how are you this week?
Fantastic. Tell me what's going on in East Central Florida.
Well, we've got all kinds of fun stuff going on. Redfish are starting to show up in better numbers, and that's always a positive. Our speckled trout bite this past week has been surprisingly good with some big fish up into the 26, 27, 28-inch range.
That's good fish.
Yeah, good solid fish. And live finger mullet right now seems to really be working good along the shorelines. Mosquito Lagoon, you don't have very many rocky areas in the south end. So what you want to look for down there is softer bottom, deep undercut banks, little channels, little depressions, things of that nature. Now, when you go north of Haulover Canal, you do have some rockier areas, especially along that area, like the clinkers, all the way up through Oak Hill and New Smyrna. And then when you get up to Oak Hill and New Smyrna, you throw in oyster bars as well. So anywhere where there's rocky areas from Haulover north in the Mosquito Lagoon, that's what you want to target on. Same kind of baits. And then, of course, to the south, look at those little bit deeper, muddier little holes and depressions and things that are around some of the corners of some of the islands and things of that nature. In the Banana Rivers, it's kind of a mixture as well. If you have a soft, muddy area like Granny's Cove or Patillo Creek or Turnbull Creek, then the fish want to be in there. But if you get into a harder area or harder rock area, like around Dragon Point down in O'Galley or Melbourne, or over on the Banana River side around some of the Spoil Islands, and then like around Horty Point at the tip of Newfound Harbor, once again, rocky areas, live baits, live finger mullets, trout showing up in good numbers and good sized fish.
Gotcha. That sounds good. Hey, Jim, we had a question from a listener this week that wanted to know what to look forward to in the East Central section over the next 90 days. Like I know in Northeast Florida up here, we're now everybody's switching over to trolling for dolphin, and then pretty soon it'll be kingfish. Whatever. Walk me through the next 90 days. What's going to happen in East Central?
Okay, well, that's actually one of the species I was going to talk about when you asked what's coming, because the dolphin are definitely coming. We're getting a few of them. They're still mainly way on the other side of the Gulf Stream right now on the east side, but they are transitioning to the west side. So look for better numbers of those fish. Our king mackerel are showing back up in good numbers. 8A Reef, as a matter of fact, just today, we finally started getting some good fish on it, and they will hit either live or dead frozen, sardines, cigar minnows, things of that nature. So you don't have to necessarily have live baits to catch those fish. The dolphin, obviously, you're trolling ballyhoo. But one of the things that I really look for, especially mid to late May into June and then in through the first part of July, is my tarpon. I love chasing those things. They're, they can be frustrating some days, but I'll tell you what, when you hook to a tarpon, there is nothing in the inshore waters that is going to do what a tarpon does. Tarpon jump 8 feet in the air sometimes. Tarpon turn back flips. Tarpon turn front flips. Tarpon just run screaming drag for 100 yards and then do all of the above. So when you look at the species that are coming, you've got dolphin coming, you've got king mackerel coming, and you've got tarpon coming for those offshore guys. Now for the inshore guys, the pompano along the beach are going to pick up here in the next month. So get ready for that. Get your sand fleas, get your fish bites, get your cut shrimp, get out there and get ready. Even if you guys, some guys use little pieces of cut gulp and things of that nature. get ready because those pompano are going to start coming through. And when they come through, that's some good eating right there.
Oh, yes, it is. And that's a lot to look forward to. Jimmy, that's a fantastic report. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'm looking forward to it, Rick.
Thank you, Jim. Our thanks to Captain Jim Ross for a great East Central report. Now, let's stop in my favorite little fishing village, Stuart, Florida, and find out what's going on with Captain John Earhart. John, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you, Cap. Tell me, how's the charter business, by the way?
Business has been pretty good. Offshore fishing's been really good this week. Catching a lot of cobia, a lot of blackfin tuna, a few mahis, and a couple sailfish mixed in. Cobia fishing's been for sure. That's been 30 to 60 feet of water, and then like 100 to 250 feet of water. It's been really productive for blackfin tuna this week. A few sailfish mixed in, and a couple stray mahis here and there. Most of them are like 5 to 10 pounders, but every now and then we catch a 30 or 40 pounder this time of year.
Now, are you guys primarily dead bait trolling this time of year, or are you live bait fishing?
We're kind of in between stage. As soon as those live greenies show up pretty good, on the near shore wrecks, I'll switch over and slow troll live baits, or I'll kite fish if the conditions are right. But I'm still trolling this time of year because I like to be able to cover a lot of ground. And if I'm getting a lot of bites in a certain area, I may stop trolling and I'll switch over and start kite fishing or drifting live baits. And that's really going to be your ticket if you want to be incredibly successful.
Gotcha.
These pelagic this time of year.
Anything going on inshore?
Yeah, snook fishing's been pretty darn good. We're catching keeper-sized fish, 28 to 32 inches, and catching a couple fish, close to 40 inches this week as well. Mostly live bait fishing. At night, we're catching them on artificial around the bridges. There's been a lot of jack crevalles in the mix, a few redfish, a couple flounder here and there, and a few stray pompano on the flats, drifting the sand flats, casting out sand fleas on pompano rigs or drifting with goofy jigs, artificials.
Pompano should be headed north now, shouldn't they?
Yeah, this is pretty much the very, very tail end of it, and then it's pretty much the pompano fishing's done here for several months.
Gotcha. Excellent. Captain John, thank you as always for the report, and please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yep, I look forward to talking with y'all next week.
Captain John Earhart from the Mayhem and the Chaos located in Stuart, Florida. Of course, John and all our action spotters are brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people back to nature. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. By Tournament Master Chum, it's the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Fishing, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flats bay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. All right, thanks to Captain John Earhart. Now it's time to check in with the mayor of South Beach, our buddy Captain Alan Sherman. Alan, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Rick. What a beautiful day we're having today.
I tell you what, it's been nice up here, too. It's not as cold. The wind's not blowing quite as hard. There's spring in the air, my boy. There's pollen all over my truck.
Well, very cool. So I guess you're looking for a fishing report.
That would be correct.
So let's start with the offshore fishing. Somewhat decent conditions, although we had some wind, and we'll probably have some wind throughout the week. But the fish haven't been cooperating. There's been some blackfin tunas biting, mostly when a cloud passes by, and there's been a few clouds. Just an occasional kingfish, a few bonitas, some sailfish, a few barracudas, a few sharks, and a few Spanish mackerel. It's just a few of everything. And this is March. Usually in March, you expect things to pick up on the offshore scene, and it isn't happening. But that should change in another week or so, or maybe by next week. There's a lot more guys targeting sea trout right now than there has been in the past. I know myself, we've had a few really good trips on the sea trout, and we're catching fish that are 20 inches or better. A number of them that are smaller, and that's unusual, seeing that we really haven't seen a lot of trout in the bay because of the lack of seagrasses. There's also scattered snook and some big jack crevalles. That's about what we have going on in the bay. The inlet fishing's been really good. Big tarpon are in there, and there's some snook. But the guys fishing at night with medium-sized blue crabs and extra large shrimp, they're slow drifting them behind the boat, and they're doing well on those fish, especially on the outgoing tides. There's been quite a few mullet in the area. So if you can get a mullet, you can slow drift them through the inlet, and they're also getting strikes from tarpon. Probably, once again, the best fishery we have is the freshwater fishing, where myself and my son, we fished the other day and had way over 100 largemouth, quite a few panfish, the cichlids and the Oscars, and a lot of bluegills. But the bass fishing was just off the charts, and we were catching them on surface plugs, deep running plugs, and it was fabulous.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I was worried that the peacock bass were shoving all of your largemouth out of the way, but maybe that's not happening right now. So I certainly hope not.
Well, it's a whole different fishery. You know, the largemouth, they like to get out on the flats. The peacocks like to stay in the canal system. So when the water levels drop, they meet.
I see.
And when that happens, it's an incredible fishery. Yes.
I see. Hey, Alan, we had a question from a listener this week. I was going to pose it to you. The next 3 months, what do you look forward to and when?
It's pretty simple. You know, getting into the month of April, it's big dolphin, 20 to 50 pounders.
Oof.
And I forgot to mention there were a couple of big dolphin caught just this past week, 20 and 40 pounders. Not a lot. They're pairs, a cow and a bull or a single, and they're usually track and bait fish, and there's often a frigate bird above them. But those fish get really hot during the month of April. Bigger kingfish, gigantic bluefish, when the wind is blowing really hard, those fish show up. And then come May, we're looking at mutton snappers, that start spawning on full moon, and you catch the right wreck or deep ledge, and the mutton snappers, 10 to 20 pounders, full of roe. That's a hot bite. Now, June, it's mangrove snappers, the beginning of the dolphin season.
Gotcha. Outstanding. That's lots to look forward to. One of the best parts about Florida, by the way. Every month gives us something to look forward to. Captain Allen, we appreciate it, and we hope we can talk with you next week.
Look forward to it, Rick.
Thank you, buddy. Our thanks to Captain Alan Sherman for a great Miami report. Now, it's time to head to Kokomo down to Islamorada and check in with none other than the captain of the Broad-Minded, one of the world's truly great, and I mean that sincerely, swordfish fishermen, certainly going today, Captain Nick Stancic. Nick, how are you?
I'm hanging in, Rick. How you doing?
Did you get over your 7-hour butt whooping last week?
I was going to mention it. We're still battling depression, but we're slowly getting over it as each day passes.
Hey, you want the good news? That fish is still in the pond, buddy.
Yeah, he's still out there.
He's still out there.
Find him again.
You might run into him again tomorrow. You don't know. How's your fishing been this week?
So we picked away at the swords. We fished 4 days. We caught one on each of 3 of the days, and one day we caught 2. We tagged and released 3 of the 5 fish that we caught. Kept a couple for dinner, let a few go, and nothing big, but 1 or 2 bites a day at least. That was good enough to keep us interested.
Oh, and nothing wrong with that. Any mahi around?
A couple. There's a few around. Some blackfin tuna showed up for some of the boats the last few days. I saw some hose hanging up. The reef has been decent. A few sailfish. There's been a few muttons, some amberjacks, a few kingfish. So there's been a little, nice little mixed bag in the reef this springtime when you're getting not a lot of everything, but you're getting a little bit, of everything.
Mm-hmm. Makes up for a good day's fishing anyway. Please tell me we can check in with you again next week.
Yep. Give us a call. Hopefully we'll be out there and hope all is well.
Captain Nick Stancic from the Broad-Minded out of Bud and Mary's bringing us the Islamorada report. All right, now let's head on over to 10,000 Islands and find out what Steve Dahl's up to. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rick. How's your day?
You know what? It's warmer. The wind's not as bad. I'm doing good.
Nice. I like it. Things are good for me. I can tell you that. I'm having a ball this past week. So
cool.
It's good.
What's biting?
Yeah, we're mainly snook. I mean, the last week we were kind of, talking about that, and we were talking about the last couple of weeks about magic water temperatures, and that 72 mark's here. That 72-degree water mark is here, and things are alive. Bait is everywhere in the 10,000 Islands, and as such, the redfish and snook fishing has been just lights out. In particular, the big snook are starting to really show, and boy, it's been fantastic. I mean, really,
sheer numbers. I mean, not uncommon to go out, even with just plugs and artificials, to go catch 20, 30 fish with realistic shots of fish in the, lower 30 to mid 30 inch range with, some beauties being caught. We haven't had a 40 in a couple weeks, but quite a few other captains have caught them in that last couple weeks span. So, I mean, it is getting right real quick down here. And, the best thing I can, tell people is, it's really, you can certainly catch them on artificials, but boy, those big fish want live bait. And, if you're not proficient at throwing a cast net, now's the time to learn. It really is. And, it's something we probably all should at least have. And I understand a lot of people don't like to do it, but boy, these are the times where it really just makes, night and day difference if you have a live well full of pilchards. And, the bait is so easy to come by. If you're going to practice, now's the time to do it. There's tons of, online tutorials from Florida Sportsman about how to throw a cast net. And, please just, spend the time, throw it in your pool if you got a pool, or in your backyard, your front yard. It's not all that hard. Find the system that works best for you and just go for it, because, you don't need a ton of bait, this time of year, especially if you're hunting some of these bigger fish, but it's certainly making a difference. And it really is super easy to do. I mean, we're literally putting these things on 2 to 3 aught circle hooks, depending on the size of the bait, beefing up our fluorocarbon leaders depending on where we're at, 40, 50 pound fluoro, and sometimes a split shot, just, heavy enough to kind of keep that bait down, but not make it look unnatural, if you will. And we're just kind of floating those in with the tide, right up against mangroves, and it's on. I mean, it is on.
Hey, Steve, I got an idea.
Yeah, go ahead.
How about this? The guy that works the hardest and learns how to catch his bait and learns how to scout his fish and all that, he'll probably be the most successful, won't he?
No, there's some truth to that. And,
there is.
It really is. It sounds so simple, but there is some truth to that. I mean, I've always said, and Rick, you've heard me say it a million times in our conversations, there's just absolutely no substitute for time on the water. And, obviously we're blessed because we get to do this for a living, but the reality is the more time you're out there, and the more you challenge yourself to do different things, the better fisherman you're going to become. It's just that simple.
And Steve, the more time you put in preparation, the same thing holds there. The more time I get tickled every time I see somebody. Well, maybe we're on a hot mahi bite or a hot kingfish bite or something. I'll look and somebody will be over there with 3 lines in the water while they make a leader for the 4th one. And I'm like,
right.
What in the world have you been doing all winter?
Right.
Good gracious. That's why God made winter, so we could build leaders. Yeah. I mean, that's not that hard.
It's
Cap,
so true.
We appreciate it so much, Steve. We always do. Thanks a lot. And please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, most of the guys you hear on Florida Sportsman Podcast are hardcore saltwater fishermen. Well, that is until April rolls around. That's because there's just nothing more exciting than watching a largemouth explode on a DOA PT being walked weedless through some new freshwater grass beds. You want a jolt to make your heart skip a beat? Try swimming a weedless DOA snake through some lily pads when the dawn's fog is still on the water. Once the sun comes up, hey, the DOA worms can dredge Big Mama off her bed with the best of them. Get it today. DOA, the unfair advantage. Thank God we've survived winter, and my favorite time of year is here. It's time to put away the high-speed Wahoo gear and break out some of the tackle that can put the fun back in blue water fishing. Listen, we all dream about the days when a big blue marlin crashes our spread, but let's talk some facts here. Almost all the blue marlin we see anymore are under 300 pounds, and we just don't see 50-pound dolphin like we used to. So why not stop by one of the Strike Zone stores and check out the new Talicas and Speedmasters designed to put the fun back in blue water fishing. What makes Shimano and Strike Zone the only team you need to know? That's because while you're buying your new weapons, the staff at Strike Zone can splice 500 yards of braid backing on your new reels just to make sure there's nobody in the blue water neighborhood that you can't handle. So stop by either one of the Strike Zones and just feel the weight of the new Talavera rods matched with Speedmaster or Talica reels. You'll see in a hurry that it's time to put the fun back in blue water trolling. Our thanks to Captain Steve Dahl for a great 10,000 Islands report. That means it's time to check in with Snook Stamp Charters and our old buddy Greg Stamper. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Rick. Can't complain at all. Fishing's been very good, and we are definitely into our summer pattern.
I wondered if you were doing as well as your neighbor there to the south is. He went on and on about how good snook and reds are. You seeing the same thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The snook fishing is definitely full speed now. Those fish have definitely said it's time to go out and play. Even the guys on the wrecks and the reefs are just crushing them. We're catching them in the back bays. We're not even trying a lot of times, Rick. We're still going after these big redfish that we've been targeting for the last month or so, and we're picking up snook all over the place where the reds used to be. Today, just alone, the red fishing slowed down, but we had no problems because we had tight lines on snook all over the place on things like our cut ladyfish, on pilchards, on shrimp. Heck, I had a guy throwing a topwater just random, just having fun. He caught one on the open flat. So the snook are out, they're about, and if you want to catch one, it's full speed now. The other option you're going to have with those snook is they're going to be packing our beaches all over the place from pretty much anything south of us all the way up to Boca Grande because the white bait is getting sick.
Oh, that's cool. Now, is your slot open now? Can you keep 28s to 32s, or are you closed now?
No, sir. We've been closed for, since basically that big epic red tide we had back in 2018.
Oh, that's right.
They're going to talk about opening.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to talk about opening these things up. I did see something from FWC on my phone today. I have not had a chance to read it. The rumor or the word on the street, Rick, is June or July. That's going to be the opening time frame for both snook, redfish, and trout. But, honestly, I don't care either way. I would prefer it to stay closed for a little bit longer. But if they say we're good, then we'll be good to go.
I like it. I think what we're going to see, Greg, and I may be wrong, but I think we're going to see guys realize that we don't have to kill fish every time we go fishing. We can have a great experience without it.
Absolutely. Even in today's charters with all these things that are closed, I asked them, like how many times or how many people are you trying to feed tonight if they want to keep fish? And I can easily take care of that with the pompano or mackerel or something like that without having to go after some of these other fish. I can tell you that everything that we've seen, the trout has finally come back strong. We are definitely catching a lot more of those than we did before. The red fishing, although excellent, most of those fish are going to be on the larger side. So next year they will be breeders, or they already are. And then we're got the snook, which are coming in at all size ranges. We got some snook today up to 33 inches. Nothing crazy, but I know a few guys offshore have done well. And speaking of offshore, Rick, the tarpon fishing in the offshore, near shore area is now full speed. I'm sure you're hearing these same reports from down south. We've got fish up to 100, 150 pounds. They're all cruising in. I have a great friend of mine. He's one of my captains at my marina, Jason Moore. He got into a school that I was actually fishing for sharks a day earlier, and I saw them all over the place. And I said, man, you ought to go over here and check it out. He got into them. He saw them on his side stand. He floated through a school for over a half a mile and had fish one after another. So anybody who's fishing off of Wiggins Pass all the way up to Sanibel and Captiva Pass, you're going to find these fish right now. There's plenty of them.
Greg, that's a fantastic report. We appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, always, Rick. I'll have more stories and more fun times. I'll talk to you next time.
Good deal. Thank you, Greg. Captain Greg Stamper checking in from Snook Stamp Charters.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils.
What?
Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with Menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to use second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. That takes us up to the West Central region. Let's see what Ray Markham is up to. How they biting, Ray Markham?
Well, believe it or not, even with this full moon, late outgoing tide, real late in the afternoon, the snook are just chewing the end of the line off. And, it's typical, March madness here with snook. And they're sick of the cold weather. And, man, this warm stuff has really turned them on. But there's lots of things going on besides snook. We've had some redfish popping out here and there. Some pretty big trout being caught. I say pretty big compared to what we have had. We've got some 22, 24-inch fish that are showing up. And for the guys that are running anywhere close to the beaches, the mackerel and the kingfish have been absolutely insane. Monsters. I mean, when you're looking at 3 to 5 pound Spanish mackerel and 40 to 60 pound kingfish.
Holy smokes.
It's just been absolutely crazy. There's plenty of bait out there. A lot of guys are out digging up some blue runners for bait, and the ones that are slow trolling the blue runners are getting the biggest kingfish.
That's fantastic. Now, King of the Beach is coming up soon, isn't it?
It is. It's coming up. I want to say, well, it's in April. I do know that. I don't know the exact date right off my calendar. But definitely it's coming up, as well as quite a few other tournaments. Actually, there's a tournament coming up, I believe, next week. That's probably one of the longest running tournaments going here. It used to be held over at the Johns Pass Marina, but I believe they moved it over to Maximo, another big tournament. So, lots of tournaments that are just getting ready to fire up and lots of money on the line. And so there's guys real interested in that stuff. Anybody running the beaches, they're seeing a few cobia and they're catching a bunch of triple tail. So they got just a little while longer before they start pulling traps out of the water, another couple of months for stone crabs. So they're still keeping some fish close to shore for that.
Got it. Outstanding.
I said that's pretty much what's going on.
That's fantastic. It sounds like there's no rest for the weary over there. And I hope you'll be back at it tomorrow, and I hope this weather holds for you. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ray. Talk to you next week. Tonight and every night's Florida Sportsman Action Spotter is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Our thanks to Ray Markham for a great West Central report. Now, we're going to hop up the coast a little bit and check in with Captain Kevin Lanier to see what's going on in Northwest Florida. Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
Captain Rick, we're doing great. How about yourself?
Doing fine. But the weather is warming slightly. The wind, if you use your imagination, you can convince yourself it's backed off some. Things are actually looking a little better here in Northeast Florida. How about over there?
I would agree with you. We've had more good days than bad days here lately, so we're doing pretty good.
Good. Tell me what's going on with the fishing.
Well, one of the things that always happens here in the spring are the sheep's heads show up on our shallow shoals here in Mexico Beach. And so we've had a great time out catching sheep's head. And it's so funny when you get these guys, they're big and they're mean. So it's a lot of fun on our light tackle. Sometimes the tackle's a little too light, but we have a great time. And it's one of those, we had a group the other day with a dad and two sons, and it was absolutely a blast to see them catch them. We've also got Spanish mackerel showing up. It's a little bit better than the typical time of year. The Spanish mackerel are a little bit bigger than they tend to be this time of year. So we're getting some quality fish there.
Good. Listen, I had a question this week. We are always pleased when one of our listeners sends us a question. And like about a zillion other people, he's new to Florida and just starting fishing. And he was wondering, he wanted us to address the next season, like the next 3 months. What changes in your area over the next 3 months? Like what's going to happen in May, and then what do you hope to see in June?
Well, in May, we get to catch the elusive amberjack and keep them. And so we get to have fun doing that, but then we're not allowed to catch triggers. But we fall off the red snapper cliff June 1st. Our season, from my standpoint, runs June 1st to August 3rd in 2021. So it is red snapper, grouper, bottom fish game like that. And we start waiting on the pelagics to show up a little bit later in that period of time. But May and June, it's around here we always wait on June. I mean, we blow right through May waiting on June.
June's your Christmas, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. June and July. I mean, that's the whole area. That's our not only fishermen but all the local restaurants, hotels, everything like that. Those are our money months.
I understand. All right. Well, good deal. Now, you'll start seeing kingfish just about the same time we do, like the last week of May, first couple weeks of June. Does that sound right?
Yeah, we will do that. You'll be out there Spanish fishing, and all of a sudden you go, man, that's a big Spanish, and you realize it's a king.
That's a big Spanish. That's a big Spanish. And where did all my fishing string go?
That is true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's usually how we know the kings are here, when you think, wow, that's a big Spanish, and it winds up being a small king. So.
Yep, I got you. All right, Cap. Well, look, as always, we appreciate it. I'm sure the people in Northwest Florida will be getting ready for those seasons, and I'm glad to hear about the sheep's head. Now, how are the new limits going over for you guys?
Oh, they're fine. I mean, this is time of year too, flounder start to show up. So there's some grumping and grumbling about the new flounder limit and everything like that. But, in reality, it is what it is, and you might as well enjoy catching the fish rather than complaining about the limit.
I like your attitude. I share it, too. Cap, as always, we appreciate it. I look forward to talking with you next week, if that's okay.
Captain Rick, I'll be here waiting.
You got it. Captain Kevin Lanier from Northwest Florida. Kevin and all our action spotters each and every week are brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people back to nature. By DOA Lures, your unfair advantage. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Our thanks to Captain Kevin Lanier for a great report on how they're doing on the Big Sheep's Head. Hey, it was a fun week around, and I enjoyed hearing what everybody's looking forward to. As fishermen, we always look forward to something, but in different parts of Florida, there's all different kind of fisheries to look forward to, and we appreciate the guys bringing us up to date on that. There was good news in some areas and not so good in others. Down in Stewart, they're catching a lot of blackfin tuna. There's a handful of mahi down in the Keys. Captain Nick's catching swords, and that's always good news. Seemed to be better on the West Coast this week to me. That Southwest area was the hot spot this week where they're doing so well on big reds and big snook. You come up into West Central, what about 40 to 60 pound kingfish? That's some monsters with the big King of the Beach tournament coming up. Look for maybe some record catches there, and I'll take a 3 to 5 pound Spanish anytime. Hey, we sure enjoyed our trip around the state tonight, and I hope you did too. If you did, please like us and share us with your buddies. Like all podcasts, we depend on listeners for our sponsors so they know that we're in touch with you guys. You got a question for us? Let us know. We'll try and answer it on the air. This week's podcast was brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people back to nature. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. By Tournament Master Chum, it's the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Hey, I've enjoyed it. I hope you have too. Until next week, I'm Captain Rick Riles for Florida Sportsman, and I'll see you on the rip.